Howdy, when you decide to create a new nation from scratch, it's only reasonable to want to protect it against other nations with everything you've got. These defensive procedures can be called war plans, or operation whatever word suits best. One country that was really into preparing for hypothetical war scenarios with everybody around them, was the United States. The U.S. is commonly known for being that type of guy who thinks they can solve a problem, but instead it becomes a much bigger problem for the recipient. But the U.S. has not always been like this. In fact, for most of its history, it has always kept to itself, shying away from European affairs and conflict. If it didn't involve them, they didn't care, most of the time anyway. But in the interwar period, the U.S. military had begun to draw up potential war plans on everybody, neighbors, allies, and countries that hold little value to the U.S.
Sir, about this war plan. You want us to prepare for combat against the Canadians?
That's exactly right, Private. Why? Are you secretly a Canadian spy?
No, but I don't get why you chose Canada of all places to prepare against. I mean, Americans and Canadians are like brothers.
Don't give in to that Canadian propaganda. I suppose you believe all Canadians are friendly, too, don't you?
Well, have you ever seen a rude Canadian?
I'm talking to one right now.
Whatever. Also, another thing, why do you also want to invade Central America?
Have you ever seen a rich Hispanic person?
Oh Jesus Christ.
It was fortunate that the U.S. was on good terms with most countries, so almost all of these never saw use, and shortly after the beginning of World War II, these individual war plans were scrapped, and replaced with the 5 rainbow plans. But who cares about some silly old rainbow plans? Definitely not me. Besides, the original war plans are way more ludicrous and entertaining to know. So let's drop this long-ass intro dialogue and get into it already. Here are the color-coded American war plans. I'll start off at the homeland, and we'll stretch out around the world. First up, War Plan Blue. This war plan was all about defensive procedures that the United States should follow during peace times. Next is War Plan White. This was all about suppressing any uprisings that may occur in the United States, with communists being considered the main threat of instigating an uprising. Let's cross the southern border, with War Plan Green. This plan was against Mexico, and had been chopped and changed many times before being discarded in 1946. This war plan was made to quell the rebels in the country while the Mexican Revolution was raging, which was just one big clusterfuck of power struggle. One variation of the plan was aimed to occupy Mexico and to establish a stable, pro-American government, without interfering with the residents too much. The second variation was to make a beeline straight to Mexico City and to take control of the government. The final variation of Plan Green was to simply protect the border, and to seize areas near the border if they are deemed as protective measures. War Plan 10 was made for the idea of an American intervention in Cuba. This had 2 variations, which considered dealing with uprisings in the country with and without military support. Next is War Plan Gray. Apparently there was 2 separate Plan Grays. One of them focused on the Caribbean and Central America, and the second was proposed during World War II, which dealt with invading the Portuguese Azores Islands in the Atlantic, if they were taken by the Axis powers. Taking to the stage now is War Plan Purple. Oh dear. It seems the CIA have worn this one out. Anyway, War Plan Purple, this was created to invade countries in South America, particularly for regime changes. War Plan Violet, War Plan Purple's sibling. Violet's main priority covered all of Latin America, which isn't really necessary, since it may as well be Plan Green, Gray, and Purple glued together. Anyways, now the Americas have been coded, let's look further out. Our first non-America based plan is War Plan Indigo, which was all about occupying the little Iceland of Iceland. Part of this war plan was put into effect during World War II, after the Danish surrendered, and the Americans would take over occupation from the British up until the end of the war. War Plan Red, arguably the more well-known war plan. This one was proposed in an event the British Empire had declared war against the U.S. Each British Dominion was allocated a various shade of red, to fit the theme of the war plan, except for Ireland, who got emerald instead. The U.S. only planned to attack Canada, obviously because they border each other, with the goal to capture Canada, and push for it to become U.S. territory during peace negotiations. War Plan Gold was a contingency plan for a war with France, and its colonies in the Caribbean. Incoming War Plan Black, this plan was all about Germany during World War I. It took inspiration from War Plan Gold, but instead of taking France's Caribbean colonies for themselves, they would take them only so Germany could not get a foothold into the Caribbean if France fell. War Plan Yellow goes after China. This plan was based solely on the chance that a second Boxer rebellion-like uprising occurred. War Plan Brown was created in the event an uprising began in the Philippines when the U.S. occupied the country. War Plan Orange's intentions were against Japan. Some of the ideas to attack Japan got used in the Pacific Campaign, so you could see how much work they put into this one. We've come a long way in this video, but this is the last one, I promise. War Plan Red Orange. If you've been paying attention, you'd know who this was for, the British and the Japanese. This was put into the planning room after the Anglo-Japanese alliance, but America would have been too weak to attack both Britain and Japan on two separate fronts respectively, so they proposed to attack British territories in the Atlantic and Canada, while defending in the Pacific. Lucky for Britain, however, their spot got swapped out for Germany and Italy during World War II. Oh boy, that was a lot of war plans to go through. Talk about being over-precautious. Anyway, this concludes the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.